गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यामुनतीर वनचारी यामुनतीर वनचारी जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यामुनतीर वनचारी यामुनतीर वनचारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जयो जय ओं विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजक आचार्य अष्टोत्र सदस्य श्रीमद ऐसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओं विष्णुपाद कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति विकास स्वामिनिति नामिने। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 3, The Birth of Lord Krishna, Text 12. Please repeat after me. Atam enam astaut avadharya purusham param nata angah kritadhihi कृत अंजलिः स्वरोचिषा भारत सूतिकागृहं विरोचयन्तं गतभिः प्रभाववित् अतैनमस्तौ अवधार्य पूरुषं परं नताङ्गकृतधीकृताञ्जलिः स्वरोचिषा भारतसूतिकागृहं विरोचयन्तं घतभिप्रभाववित् अतैनमस्तौदवधार्य पौरुषं परं नताङ्गकृतधीकृताञ्जलिः स्वरोचिषा भारतसूतिकागृहं विरोचयन्तं घतभिप्रभाववित् अतैनमस्तौदवधार्य पूरुषं परं नताङ्गकृतधीकृताञ्जलिः स्वरोचिषा भारतसूतिकागृहं विरोचयन्तं घतभिप्रभाववित् परं नताङ्गकृतधीकृताञ्जलिः स्वरोचिषा 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 भारतसूतिकागृहं विरोचयन्तं गतभिः प्रभाववित् अतैनमस्तौदवधार्य पूरुषं परं नताङ्गकृतधीकृताञ्जलिः स्वरोचिषा भारतसूतिकागृहं विरोचयन्तं गतभिः प्रभाववित् माताजी अतैनमस्तौदवधार्य पूरुषं परं नताङ्गकृतधीकृताञ्जलिः स्वरोचिषा भारतसूतिकागृहं विरोचयन्तं घतभिः प्रभाववित् अतैनमस्तौदवधार्य पूरुषं परं नताङ्गकृतधीकृताञ्जलिः स्वरोचिषा भारतसूतिकागृहं विरोचयन्तं घतभिः प्रभाववित् Maybe Prabhuji, Jagadish Prabhu can translate in Hindi. It's going to be an English class. Ata thereafter, enam to the child, astaud offered prayers. Avadharya, understanding surely that the child was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purusham, the Supreme Person. Param, transcendental. Nata Angaha, falling down. Kritadihi, with concentrated attention. Krita Anjalihi, with folded hands. Swarochisha, by the brilliance of his personal beauty. Bharata, O Maharaj Parikshit, descendant of Maharaj Bharata. Sutika Griham, the place where the Lord was born. Virochayantam, illuminating all around. Gatabbihi, all his fear disappeared. Prabhavavit, he could now understand the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. O Maharaj Parikshit, descendant of King Bharata, Vasudeva could understand that this child was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Having concluded this without a doubt, he became fearless. Bowing down with folded hands and concentrating his attention, he began to offer prayers to the child who illuminated his birthplace by his natural influence. Purport. Struck with such great wonder, Vasudeva now concentrated his attention on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Understanding the influence of the Supreme Lord, he was surely fearless, since he understood that the Lord had appeared to give him protection. Ghatabhi Prabhavavit. Understanding that the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present, he appropriately offered prayers as follows. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namini. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in the last three verses we saw how Vasudeva was completely struck with wonder seeing the beautiful form of the Lord and his very effulgent appearance and the transcendental features of the Lord. As the previous verses were explaining, that he was in great transcendental jubilation, he was in great happiness, he was surcharged with joy after having seen the Lord right in front of him. And so we heard in the previous verse what happened. So he was ready to, since he could not move out of the jail, he could not go anywhere. At the same time, he wanted to celebrate his son's appearance. So in the mind, he distributed, he called so many brahmanas and he gave charity in huge opulence, he distributed. So this today's verse, it is mentioned, Atainam Astau. So thereafter, after having experienced the great wonder, what is the great wonder? He saw the Lord. The child was born, the Lord showed himself that with Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, just to make sure that actually it is the Supreme. I appeared. You don't have to worry about anything. Krishna is showing to Vasudeva, and so he was completely stuck with wonder. He was spellbound. He was saying, "Oh my dear Lord," he was so happy. So Prabhupada also begins the purport saying that struck with great wonder. So Atainam Astaut Avadharya Purusham. This is a very interesting word here, Avadharya Purusham. Now, Vasudeva understood that he was not an ordinary child. He knew that he is the Supreme Lord himself. So here it is mentioned, Avadharya Purusham. First of all, he understood very clearly that the Supreme Lord has descended. He is the child who is right in front of me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And then also, again, it is a blow for the Mayavadis. Purusham. This word Purusham is very clearly indicating that it is the Supreme Person. Person. That word should be underlined. Person. Personality. So it's not some vague concept or some illusory form, or the Supreme Brahman has descended in a sattvic form, as we were hearing in the previous classes. The demigods were also clarifying that. This is a very important philosophical point for the Vaishnavas, and in turn for all the theists to understand that the Lord is a person, and not only is an ordinary person, he is a Supreme Person, which we saw with by his various activities, by his qualities, by his various performances. We could immediately identify that he is not any ordinary person. So this is interesting. So Avadharya Purusham. So now what is actually happening here is, after having seen the Lord appearing in his original form in front of Vasudeva and Devaki, it's a natural consequence that Vasudeva is going to offer beautiful prayers. The next quite some verses we will be seeing that such nice prayers are offered by Vasudeva. Now, before offering prayers, one should be very clear to whom you are offering prayer and for what you are offering that prayer. So Vasudeva is very clear. So he knows it is Avadharya Purusham. So he is the Supreme Person, and is very clear this child is not ordinary child. Now, then also Purusham Param. So that word is also Supreme Person. So he is the Supreme Person, that is mentioned. Then he goes on to, this is again, before offering prayer, once you understand the person you are standing in front of the Supreme Lord, it is again an expression of humility. So in the proper understanding of the Vaishnava Siddhanta is that the Lord is the Supreme Person and I am his eternal servant. The moment you get this understanding, it's a naturally you tend to bow down. So bowing down is very important. So he is Nata Angaha, it's being mentioned here. So he completely fell down flat. He fell down, and then Kritadihi, Kritanjalihi. Again, two words are mentioned. Kritadihi and Kritanjali. And then with folded hands, he completely focused his mind. He absorbed himself in that form of the Lord. Kritadihi. Kritadihi means with full, what proper translates? He says with concentrated attention. Oh, this is so important. Unless we have concentrated attention, it is not possible for us to focus and appreciate and glorify the Supreme Lord. So this is very much required. This concentrated attention is required for any activity. Forget about spiritual activity. Even to accomplish a mundane activity in a proper way, one should be fully focused, one should be concentrated. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult. So here, Vasudeva is fully concentrating. He was totally convinced, and he is in full faith. Is going to begin to offer prayers to the Supreme Lord. So Natangaha Kritadihi Kritanjalihi. So he understood that he is the Supreme Lord, was come in the form of a child, and so he bowed down to him, and with full concentration and with folded hands. So when it's not easy, sometimes to fold hands means immediately you acknowledge that I am on a lower state and you are on a higher state, or you are a great personality, I want your shelter. So this is an expression. So that's why many times we have to understand when we can see advanced Vaishnavas, you go and offer them flowers, they with folded hands they accept it, and then you receive a Vaishnava, you receive a spiritual master, you bow down with folded hands. And also when you go and then speak even in front of the spiritual master, we can see this is very much in practice in the Sri Vaishnava tradition. You go to the Guru and then with folded hands, and then also you can't just go and talk like this to him. You show you are subservient to him, and then you show your respect, you show your humility, you show your appreciation for that spiritual master or for that Vaishnava or for any superior for that matter. So that was the Vedic culture. And you can see here with the pure devotees, such amazing characteristics are being expressed. That's why we train the children right from young age. Not that with any elders, anyone, you just go and then talk with folded hands, with respect. Then what happens? The tendency to hear, it grows actually. Then the tendency to hear, and then you obey, and then you follow. Otherwise, everything becomes spoiled. Once the familiarity comes in place, then no more hearing. So this is very. So these three words in this verse it is the expression of proper attitude in approaching the Lord. Natangaha kritaddihi kritanjalihi. And also sometimes we can see this mood of everything has got a particular mood. Even this just reminds me, sometimes when you sing some Vaishnavacharya songs also, the way how you play the kartals and mridanga, it all very much matters, because it's not some kind of a ritual that we perform. It invokes specific moods. For example, you sing Goranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Sharir. When you sing this song, you cannot play some fancy beats, and little bit you cannot play fast, or you cannot play some beats which invoke a different mood. There is a particular song has got a particular mood, and the beat should accompany in a similar way. So similarly, when you approach devotees, when you approach superiors, spiritual master, there is a way, it is a culture that we need to learn. There is a difference now when you go and call, Prabhu, come here. Prabhuji, how can I serve you? There is a way by which you speak, how you approach. So similarly, and when you speak like that, you don't even understand the word Prabhu, and you call him, Prabhu, come here. Doesn't make any sense. That means the Sambandha Jnana is lacking. You don't understand clearly. But whereas here we see, Astaud Avadharya Purusham Param Natangaha. So he very clearly understood that this child is not some ordinary child, the Supreme Lord himself. Yesterday we heard that he was offering prayers. He was offering prayers. He was performing. Vasudeva and Devaki were performing austerities to get the Lord as their child. They wanted to please the Lord. So a clear understanding is there with Vasudeva, and he is glorifying the Lord, and with great reverence and with great love and proper attitude, with folded hands, he is taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. So then he goes on to explain, Svarochisha Bharata Sutikagraham. This is again very interesting. Now what has happened? Svarochisha. So there is, the Lord is, from his body there is effulgence, and also he is so beautiful. The Lord is his appearance is so captivating. So he was captivated by the brilliance of the personal beauty of the Lord. So Prabhupada's very unique translation here, word to word. He's saying that brilliance of his personal beauty. So many times we heard the Lord does not need any special abharana or any special decorations. His very form is so beautiful. In fact, all the ornaments becomes beautiful when it decorates the Lord. Actually, the ornaments become decorated by putting it on the Lord. So we can see when the Lord in the battlefield in the Kurukshetra. So Bhishma Dev was there, and then Bhishma Dev, in one of the prayers, he is glorifying that the Lord was fully. There was in the battlefield, there is all the horses are moving, the elephants are moving, the soldiers are fighting very valiantly, and there is, all the time there is dust all around, and the Lord was also in the fierce battle, and all around there is dust, but still Bhishma was appreciating his glory. What is that? Asundara Sundaranyaya. When one is not, dress is dirty, everything is shrinked, and then all the place there is dust, but still Bhishma was saying, my Lord, you're looking so beautiful. So the point is that the Lord is never contaminated. He is always transcendently beautiful. So that is the whole point. So here we can see Svarochisha Bharata Sutika Griham. So now Sutika Griham, again we see here that where he was born in the prison. There is no light, nothing. Everything was so dark. But that place became completely effulgent. And in the Laghu Vaishnava Toshni commentary, the Acharyas are pointing out that, see, when we hear from scriptures, we hear from Gita, Bhagavatam and several Puranas, when the Lord appears, the effulgence of the Lord, it is like the lot of the millions of moons and suns. It is so much, it can spread everywhere. In fact, sometimes the effulgence can block, you cannot see. So that's why in the Ishopanishad also we see the prayers. They are the devotees requesting the Lord, my dear Lord, please remove the effulgence. We want to see your transcendental form. Now here, the Acharyas are pointing out again the Achintya Shakti of the Lord, the brilliance of the Lord, that the effulgence was coming out from the body, but that effulgence was only within the room of the prison. It didn't cross over, it could have spread to the entire universe, but the Lord restricted it so that Vasudeva could see that beautiful form. So that is very interesting. So that is his power, he could do that. That's why he's Bhagavan. He could perform that. Sutika Griham. Then he goes on to explain that what is the result of that illumination? Virochayantam, illuminating all around. Gatabihi prabhavavit. This is very interesting. This point, he says that effulgence and seeing the Lord in front of him Vasudeva was very much in anxiety. See, there are two things. He knew that the Supreme Lord is there. What is there for me to worry? On the other hand, he's seeing him as his own son. So it's a natural consequence of the father to be worried that something may happen to my son, because the Kamsa is there, his guards are there. So now he is completely freed from the fear after seeing the Lord coming out and showing him, I am here, I have come to protect you. What is there for you to worry? Nothing to worry. So the Lord is giving him all the confidence, and Vasudeva was completely satisfied, and he was fully convinced there is no fear for him. So this is what the Acharyas are pointing out. Yeah. And also in this verse, there is Shukadeva Goswami, he is specifically is pointing out that Swarochisha Bharata. So he is addressing Shukadeva Parikshit as Bharata. So Bharata is one meaning as it is in this verse. O Maharaj Parikshit, descendant of King Bharata. That is one meaning. And another meaning, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is pointing out, or I'm not sure, maybe Sanatana Goswami, he's pointing out that Parikshit was so much Rata, means he was absorbed in the personal beauty of the Lord. This is the explanation he gives. He was completely absorbed in the personal beauty of the Lord. So this is an explanation. So he was, because the Lord is so attractive, and Parikshit also hearing, by hearing he's seeing the beautiful form of the Lord. So now then in this verse we can see one more interesting thing, as Srila Prabhupada is pointing out. Understanding the influence of the Supreme Lord, he was surely fearless, since he understood that the Lord had appeared to give him protection. So this is something we have to contemplate on. When we get the proper Sambandha Jnana, when we understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and everything is emanating from him, he is the controller, he is the maintainer, he is the supreme enjoyer, and we are his eternal servants. We are meant to give pleasure for him. When someone gets this understanding, the natural result of it is that he will become fearless. Because the natural result is, by the Sambandha Jnana, you are fully convinced that there is nothing for us to be afraid of. Then by engaging in devotional service, the conditioned soul becomes free from shoka, moha and bhaya. That the Bhagavatam is explaining in several places. Yasyam vai shruyamanayam Krishne paramapurushe bhaktir utpadhyate pumsaha shoka, moha, bhaya, apaha. So when one understands that, as it is mentioned here, avadharya purusham. So here Krishna paramapurushe. When someone understands that Krishna is paramapurusha and he takes to his devotional service by engaging in his chanting his holy names, engaging in various menial services to the Lord, then what is the natural consequence of it? The natural consequence of it is that as the bhakti sprouts in the heart, it completely vanquishes shoka, is suffering or the misery, moha, the illusion, and bhaya, fear. So that is what exactly is mentioned here also. Ghatabhi prabhavavit. So here Vasudeva became fearless, Prabhupada mentions. So that is the natural consequence of it. And once you become fearless, then the devotion you naturally become more and more, you become attached to the Lord. Then the devotion, it just flows. As Kunti Maharani in her prayers, she points out, Tvaime Ananya Vishaya Matir Madhupate Sakrit. Ratim Udvatam Adha Gange Vaugham Udanvati. She is offering prayer to Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. She is saying that let the Gange Vaugham Udanvati, how the Ganga, Mother Ganga flows without any inhibition, without any obstacle. She flows so fast. So like that, let my mind not get carried away by any other thoughts. Vaime Ananya Vishaya. Ananya Vishaya means not into any other thoughts. Last we are reading in the evening the Bhagavad Gita 8th chapter. We have been again and again hearing this Ananya Chetasam, Yomam Smarati Nityashaha. Smarana, our remembrance should be on Krishna. Krishna is so much pointing out. That's how you can come out of the conditioning of this material world. So now Kunti in this prayer, she's very amazingly, she's saying that let my mind be completely absorbed in your lotus feet. So we have to offer such prayers to the Lord because our mind is constantly getting diverted into so many other things. So by these prayers, we express our desire that, my dear Lord, please help me. Please let my mind be absorbed in your lotus feet, in your holy name, in your kirtan, about your nama, rupa, guna, leela. Let my mind be absorbed in that. And as a result, so Shravanam, by proper hearing, and then we naturally engage in Kirtanam, then there is continuous Smaranam. Always we remember the Lord. So this is by remembering the pure devotees of the Lord, by their activities, their glorious prayers that they offer, it helps us to remember the Lord. So now, in this shloka, just 3 words is very captivating. One was, Tvaime Ananya Vishaya Matir Pate. So we can even say Pati. So the Lord He is the Supreme Master and we are His eternal servants. Mati, our mind, we should develop Rati. We should develop attraction to the Lord. We should develop taste to these holy names, to His Katha. So, Mati, Rati, and then He is the Pati. You understand He is the Pati, and then our mind should be absorbed, and for that we need to develop taste for Him. And then we should also, to that, we should keep always focus that our Ghati, our goal is engaging in pure devotional service. Anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanushelana bhaktir uchyate. So this is what Srila Rupa Goswami is defining. Anya abhilashita should become shunyam, but that requires practice, that requires hearing, that requires constant discussion, that requires engagement in service. So that is why all these things can be accomplished in the devotional service, in the association of the devotees. Otherwise it's very difficult. We can easily get carried away. Now on the other hand, we can see here, we will discuss about this fear and the fearlessness situation. When we are more and more attached to mundane things, like we say, face is the index of the mind. Immediately we can see we are always in anxiety, we are always in tension. Because the more and more we turn our face away from Krishna's lotus feet, then more and more we become anxious because we become bound by the clutches of the material energy. Now we can see in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, Vidura was giving standing instructions to all the members of the Kuru. When after the war is over, they were all Dhritarashtra and other men and the Pandavas, everybody was in the court, and then Vidura was giving so much spiritual instructions, important instructions he was giving about detachment, taking up devotional service, all those points. Now, Dhritarashtra, after all his sons died, he was very peacefully sitting with the Pandavas. And then he was actually, in one sense, he was thinking himself, I am now settled, I am now, although it was a shame for him that he did not take any endeavors in the path of spiritual life. He was comfortably leading life with the Pandavas. Although Yudhishthira Maharaj was such a great personality, he was with great respect and reverence, was treating him as his own father and was very nicely taking care of Dhritarashtra. Now, Vidura was actually if you observe in one of the purports of the Srila Prabhupada points out that Vidura was giving instructions specifically to Dhritarashtra. Although it appeared like that instruction, those instructions were very much applicable to all those men who are in the palace. Specifically, he was giving to Dhritarashtra to invoke the fire in him that let me do at least something in my life now. Let me leave this place. Let me go in search of the Supreme Lord. Let me take to the path of self-realization. So in one of the verse, he was pointing out that Vidurastad abhipretya dhardarashtram abhasata rajan nigamyutam shigram pashyedham bhayamagatam. So he says that, Vidura says that, you please get out of here. You leave this place. Shigram, immediately you leave this place. Because I'm able to see how the fear has overtaken you. He's from the beginning, his only desire was that somehow or other Duryodhana should become the king. And after having lost him also, his mind was not peaceful at all. Although externally he was sitting there, but Vidura could immediately point it out. And Vidura, after you have to hear the entire section, how strongly he uses specific words to shake Dhritarashtra. This is the duty of a sadhu. Sadhu means not just he just speaks some poetic words and then makes the whole audience to a jovial mood and then makes an entertainment program. Sadhu should kindle the spirit of devotional service in the conditioned souls. He is actually a sadhu. I think His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj, in one of the class, he said that if they say that, oh, the class was very good, everything was very nice, then that something is wrong. Then he said that if the class was very strong and then it made persons, let me come forward and let me surrender. I have so many misconceptions. All those misconceptions should be cleared. That's how, when you speak, actually what is not something special you have to do. You should repeat the message of Bhagavatam as it comes in Parampara. So then it makes people think, and if we have to take a step after every class or after every engagement in devotional service, we should always think how I should surrender more, how I should engage more in devotional service, how I can chant more attentively, how I can be, as here Vasudeva was fully with focused attention, how I can render service to the Lord. So we all know when we pay little attention, with little extra care, the seva becomes much better. Let it be cooking, let it be making flowers, let it be teaching, let it be preaching, let it be anything for that matter. That extra attention is required. So then it becomes intense absorption. So that we see here, Vidura was very much pushing Dhritarashtra to take up to the path of renunciation. So unless we become detached from this material world, there are two things. One is attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord and also detachment. So when we develop attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord, there is a natural consequence of detachment. So that's why we have two things. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam. There are things which we need to, whatever that is favorable to devotional service, we should accept. And whatever is not favorable to devotional service, we should reject. Both the things are required. So that is why we can see in the Bhagavatam and in Bhagavad Gita and all the scriptures, both the things are given. What we should do and what we should not do. Otherwise, it will become like you try to ignite fire on one hand, on the other hand, you are pouring water also. So you should know that if you pour water, the proper fire will not ignite. So both the instructions we have to hear. And also we can see there are two things that are given: Pashanda Dalan and Prema Prachar. There are two things. One is about all these things. All the misconceptions should be removed immediately. And also, then we hear about as we hear, the 10th canto is all about the glorious nectarian activities of the Lord. But Pashanda Dalan is very much required. If you are going to go ahead with all misconceptions, think that Krishna is some imaginary form, he is not a person, then we will never be able to appreciate the real message of the Supreme Lord and the message of the Bhagavatam. So that is why our Acharyas are again and again repeating these points of how we are eternal servants of Krishna. They are meant to give pleasure to Krishna. We are also hearing from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur again how one can become free from fear. What he says in this famous song, he mentions this point that Jeev Krishna Das, E Bishwas, korle toyar dhukonai. When we can become free from misery, when we understand that we are eternal servants of Krishna, the moment we understand that we are eternal servants of Krishna, we will engage in His service. This is an important point. And also in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, there is a very important instruction which gives the fundamental principle of how one develops fear. Why this fear one develops? So the Bhagavatam explains that bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshatasya. So the cause of fear is that it is because of dvitiya abhiniveshata. We become, due to illusion, we start to see dualities. This is good, this is bad, this is better for me, this is not better for me. And we just think everything in terms of sense gratification. So bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshatasya ishad apetasya viparyayo asmritihi. So we forget the Supreme Lord, we forget why this world is created, what is our relationship with the Lord, what is the relationship we have, why we have come to this material world. The very purpose we forget all these things is because we have a very strong tendency to be separate from the Lord. We want to be the enjoyers. So as a consequence of that, we are put into illusion. So asmritihi ishad apetasya. We forget the unique position of the Lord. So we think we are the supreme enjoyers. This is the problem. And as a result, immediately we are captivated by Maya. Once we are captivated by Maya, Shoka, Moha, all these things, we are affected by that. Shoka and Moha. So then, what is the way out? So the way out is that Tan Maya Buddha Abhejatam. So it is explained that the only process by which we can come back to our constitutional position is by engaging in devotional service. How? Under the guidance of Bhaktyai Kayesham Guru Devatatma. Under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, we have to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. By the merciful glance of the spiritual master, he pulls us out of the clutches of the illusory energy of the Lord. So when you get time, you can read the commentary for this verse. In that commentary, the acharyas are pointing out that somebody may raise a question, because the cause of our suffering is because of ignorance. We all agree. Because of ignorance, we have forgotten our eternal relationship with the Lord. So, knowledge, if we have knowledge, that knowledge will remove us from ignorance. So, they're raising a question. Acharyas are raising a question like that. But then they refute this point by saying that knowledge alone is not sufficient. Simply by knowledge, you cannot overcome the illusory potency of the Lord. So, they go on to explain that one has to, we know about the Mahatmas. The Mahatma, what is it verse which says that Mahatmanastu Mangpartha Dhaiving Prakritim Ashritaha. The Mahatmanas are completely under the shelter of the Dhaivi Shakti. They are in the internal potency of the Lord. Bhajanti Ananya Manaso Jnatva Bhutadim Avyayam. So because they are completely absorbed in the internal energy of the Lord, they are always protected. There is no way we can see here, Vasudeva has no fear at all. Now, to be fixed in the internal energy of the Lord, just by knowledge it is not possible. That is why we can see, even we were just heard in the prayers of the demigods, so many of in many prayers we saw the importance of engagement in devotional service. Because that is the constitutional position of the Jiva. Dasabhuta Harer Eva Na Anya Seva Kadachana. Our constitutional position is that we have to engage in the service of the Lord, not in anyone else's service. If you don't engage in the service of the Lord, we will be engaging in so many other services. If not in other services, we will simply be engaged in satisfying our senses and the mind. So now, here the acharyas are pointing out that when one engages in the devotional service of the Lord, then what happens? The result of that is that by the influence of the Chit Shakti of the Lord, or by the influence of the internal potency of the Lord, by His mercy, He removes him from the clutches of Maya. Only the Lord can do it. By the mercy of the pure devotee, the Lord removes the binding that the jiva has enforced upon him. Exactly, they are quoting this verse. Daivi esha gunamayi Mama Maya Dhuratyaya. Very, very difficult otherwise to overcome the influence of Maya. You may be practicing for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. If we just little bit, if you go tangent, tangent means like you have you know what is a tangent, right? You have a circle and then you draw a line and then, it could be a straight line, but then the tangent is what at that point, from that point of time, it starts to move away. It starts to divert little bit. First at the beginning, the diversion is little bit, then you can see it becomes more. So it may be a slight deviation, but then you are completely captured by Maya. You are finished. You are in a very deep swoop. So, but if you are very conscious, as mentioned here, Natangaha, Kritadihi, Kritanjalihi, with that mood, if we continue to offer prayers and engage in devotional service, by the mercy of the Lord and His pure devotees, we will be protected. That is the protection that we get from our acharyas. And we see here that exactly this is the point that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is pointing out in the commentary for that verse. He's saying that the Lord, out of His mercy, He will pull us out from the conditioning. Otherwise, it's very difficult. Any process, specifically is pointing out, not by jnana, not by karma yoga, not by jnana yoga, not by dhyana yoga. Very, very difficult to come out of the. Even apparently you may come out, you may again fall down. But devotional service is the most safest path, and Krishna is pleased by that process. Bhagavatam also points out that because when we engage in devotional service, it gives us complete satisfaction. I'm not able to recollect the verse, a very beautiful verse in the second canto. It points out that, like a person who has gone for traveling. When you travel, you meet so many people. There are so many obstacles, so many disturbances. You are in some particular venture, and so many difficulties. After all those things, you come back home, and then when you come back home, you are given proper shelter. You get good food, and you are completely nourished. So, like that, this example is given. This is supposed to happen when you come back to the house, but sometimes it doesn't happen. That's a different story. But that's the idea and analogy that is given by the acharyas. So one will be satisfied completely. Similarly, when one engages in devotional service after millions and millions of lifetimes, Brahmanda Brahmita Kon Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. After millions and millions of lifetimes wandering in different bodies, one gets the mercy of the spiritual master. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets the mercy of Krishna, and Guru Krishna Prasade by Bhakti, the seed of devotion is placed in the heart of a conditioned soul. Then immediately satisfaction, complete satisfaction. And the result of that satisfaction is that you become fearless. Now we sometimes hear this example. We may not become pure devotees, but when we come in the shelter of the devotees, under the guidance of the pure devotees, we immediately get such a relief. Kleshagni is the first result of engagement in pure devotional service. So we often, Gokul Prabhu used to give this nice example. He said that you may be suffering from severe stomach pain. Okay, now you are taken to the local hospital. The doctor has not given you medicine, nothing, but you are taken there, and that itself is a relief for you. I'm in the right place, in the right hands. So I'm in the process of getting cured from the disease. Similarly, when we come in the association of devotees in the proper Siddhanta and engagement in devotional service, so by our sincere endeavors, we are on the perfect and right path. And naturally, we may, while sometimes devotees ask this question, Prabhuji, I'm chanting, I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling depression, I'm feeling this and that. The point is that this is the perfect process. There is no need to do any big analysis of this. Don't try to find some other ways and methodologies by which we can try to satisfy ourselves. Just be patient, just be enthusiastic, be focused, be attentive. We will be able to overcome the conditioning and suffering. So that is the assurance Bhagavatam again and again is placing in front of us. It is up to us to hold to it, stick to it. We may get different kinds of tests in the path, but we should, like Vasudeva, who stuck to the beautiful form of the Lord, and he was appreciating, and as a result of that, he is going to offer amazing prayers glorifying the Lord. Now also, we can also express our gratitude. Well, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra itself is expressing our gratitude to the Lord, and also reinforcing the point that, my dear Lord, I left your service. So many millions and millions of lifetimes I have engaged my senses and mind, and now I simply want to please you. This is what we are trying to request, please engage me. I've engaged in various other services. Let me engage in your service. This is the meaning of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So through the internal potency, we are trying to keep this petition to the Lord. Please accept me and engage me in your service. So this is a prayer. So I was just seeing in the 11th canto, in the Pingala section, there is a beautiful prayer that beautiful prayer means she is expressing her realization what had happened to her after she got the realization that I should actually please the Lord, but rather Pingala was a prostitute. She was trying to please so many other personalities. As a result of that, there was no happiness for her. So I'm just going, just to save time, I'm just going to read the translation. She says, I am such a fool. I have given up the service of that person who, being eternally situated within my heart, is actually dear to me. She says that the Lord, who is very dear to me, He is within my heart, He is very near to me, but rather I was trying to look for happiness elsewhere. With so many people, I was trying to find happiness. And the few words are very interesting. It says, Shantam Samipe Ramanam Vittapadam Nitya Imam. She says that. So he is Nitya, he is always residing in my heart, but I was so foolishly looking for happiness elsewhere. That's what she says. Then she goes on to say that He is most dear to me because He is the Lord of the universe, bestower of real love and happiness. Actually, He is the one who can give real love and happiness. One of the name in the Vishnu Sahasranama, the Lord is called as Sukada, one who actually gives happiness. But we are looking for happiness elsewhere, but He is the actual giver of happiness, and He can only give that happiness. So she's acknowledging that. And she says that although He is in my heart, I have completely neglected Him. Instead, I have served insignificant men who can never satisfy my real desires and who have simply brought me unhappiness, as in unhappiness, fear, anxiety, moha pradam, tucham, ahang bhajegnya. So she says that I was completely covered by illusion. So when we sing these Vaishnavacharya songs, when we just we repeat the prayers offered by the Lord, we can see often this expression of gratitude. We can see they really praise the Lord and express that I have been in illusion and you are very thankful, my dear Lord. You have given me this transcendental knowledge. You have given me the association of devotees. You have allowed me to engage in your service. This itself is a great boon. So this is the expression of a pure devotees, and also all the devotees, they express this. So we have to, it is so important that we often discuss, we often hear, and we practice this mood. And so this is the path by which we can actually become fearless. Otherwise it's very difficult. Very, very difficult in this material world. Our mind is like that, chanchala. Our mind is really chanchalam. When we are in the temple, our mind is very peaceful. When we just leave the temple and engage in some other activities, or sometimes we become very fearful. So, but that is why we should constantly discuss, constantly hear. We should also preach this. So you may say, I'm not pure devotee. It doesn't matter. Whatever is in whatever level we are, we should give this knowledge to others. The knowledge is perfect. We may not be perfect, but if we distribute this knowledge to others, we will also, in due course of time, become perfect. So we will see from tomorrow the beautiful prayers of Vasudeva, how he acknowledges, how he glorifies the Lord, and how he is in very proper understanding of the Lord, that we will see. And also there's one more point that we can see is that there is also mixed feelings, which I had mentioned in the beginning. Vasudeva had mixed feelings. One is that he became fearless, and also we can see there is Aishwarya Jnana also, because that is his mood. He was appreciating the Lord as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And also the two expressions that he had. He was fearful because Kamsa may affect him. He was also playing the Vatsalya Bhav, because as a father, he has this mood of trying to protect his son. But later when the Lord showed himself, he became fearless. Hare Krishna. Just stop here. If you have any questions or comments or any other realizations. Yes, Prabhu.
That in the beginning you mentioned about this, how when you become familiar with the seniors or your authority, that destroy the tendency to hear from them. And practical life, many times we experience it, that juniors, they may be expert in some particular field, in some particular thing, because they are, maybe in some business or in some, particular job, they are expert in some things. So devotee who are seniors, they may not know all these details. For example, take care of the car, something about, they may not know much detail, but some other devotee who is junior, he may know more than the senior. So they may take some help to take care of the car or something, for example, or any other field can happen. So what happens generally after some time, if they are not really careful, 2-3 times they help the seniors, and then they think, oh, the senior doesn't know much, and then they become so close, and the seniors very friendly, they associate with them just to engage them in the service, and they misunderstand. They think that now I become a senior, so now I'm equal to my senior.
Yeah.
But actually, our senior remains always senior. You don't become to your senior equal. You may become senior to some of your juniors, but you remain always junior to your senior. So because they little friendly to engage you in the service, that you are not, kept very much away. So that doesn't mean that they become equal to you, and then, it's many times it's happened. We see practically, sometimes devotees, they don't come, sit and listen class, even though they're the house, nearby, and, it happens. It's a practical life.
Yeah.
Why the tendency is lost to hear? He's my friend. I know. I know Prabhu so many years, That very serious thing to think.
Yeah, that's a good point, Prabhuji. This reminds me of one other thing. Also, one other practical incident it reminds me, and also philosophically, also we can see parampara jhano bhalo mate. So it is explained that the acharyas, we have to understand the strength of our parampara. We can see there are so many acharyas who are in the parampara. So one acharya will be, he has a particular mission, and it is natural, as Maharaj many times explains, that is the glory of the parampara. The disciple may, apparently it will appear that he is exceptional in so many different skills and so many different talents, but he is always indebted to his spiritual master. That is the mood of the devotee. So we can see sometimes, as Krishna's Prabhu was explaining, that the junior devotee or the beginner devotee, maybe he is very talented in some things, but if he does not have the understanding that it is all by the mercy of devotees, Hari Guru Vaishnavas, I am doing this, and if he does not nurture that proper respect and proper mood, then it's very, very dangerous. And we just have an experience that our boys were in saying the previous batch of the Gurukul boys. They were out in Sankirtan, traveling book distribution. They are trained in some of the pronunciations of the Sanskrit shlokas and Mangalarti songs and many things. There are other devotees, they may not be so proficient in music, and also they may not know the pronunciations and like that. So this couple of boys, where they were, when they were singing in the Mangalarti, in the Sankirtan, there are only 5-6 devotees. In Sankirtan, you have only some 10 minutes Kirtan. Full focus is on distributing books, and all other programs are accommodated according to that. So this couple of boys, they're behind, one of them was laughing, another one was, he was pointing out, hey, see this pronunciation, that. Then when I heard this, then I just called them one day, and then I advised them, you are so foolish. You have no understanding that you think that just by knowing some proper pronunciation of some shlokas and this and that, you are so great and you are so proud of it, but it is complete foolishness. But the kind of dedication and the kind of absorption those senior devotees they're in the Sankirtan, they have no clue. So they also acknowledge, immediately they understood that yes, Prabhuji, it's very wrong and it is improper, because tendency to become proud is there. So we have to be very, very careful. So that's why we have to hear constantly and not laugh. And also we know from Bhagavatam, when you laugh at some incidences because of you do not know what is the caliber of the devotee. So you cannot understand what it is. At the same time, if there is any correction needs to be done or something, you do it in a proper way. You approach and you inform. But we have to be very careful. Yes, Prabhu. You wanted to tell something else?
Another point is also to add that knowledge alone doesn't help you to
Yes.
liberate it.
Come on, tell the
Very nice point also that sometimes ago, recently, I think previous chapter, we were discussing how this comes, was sometimes when he speaks, we are amazed to hear. On the seventh canto also, we hear the Hiranyakashipu has
Atma
so
Tattva is
much knowledge, exactly like what Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita. So, why they have a knowledge, but they are not applying it in the practical life. They go on engaging one side in sense gratification. So same thing in our life also. We may, learn so many shlokas. We may know very nicely present all the, points and very nice speaking talent and very nice, everything. We may have a talent to do that by Krishna's mercy, but if we don't really apply in our practical life, if we are go on developing material desire and dreaming something to enjoy materially, then we will never advance it. We may have some theoretical knowledge, but it will not really help us to advance.
Yeah. I was just thinking also about this point. We hear, we can repeat again and again, Vidya Dadati Vinayam. So your knowledge, whatever knowledge you gain, it should lead you to humility. You should become humble. Otherwise, because that is the first instruction Krishna is giving, Adambitvam, Amanitvam, Adambitvam. If you don't develop that, it's all Shrama Evika. It's like Mandalam Loka Ranjanam. It's just decorating a dead body with beautiful ornaments and all those things. So that we learn from Bhagavatam. And from hearing from Srila Prabhupada and other pure devotees, we see in their own life and we learn that. Okay. If there are no questions and comments, we will wind up here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.